بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Haraka Al-Hussainiya would like to send the thawab of this majlis to the marhumin and the marhumat, and the thawab of this majlis to all who is listening. So please recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Before that, aloud salawat ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها
فكذبوا فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها فكذبوا فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت: دخل علي برسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة أتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداي يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه، السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال عليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا يجرى ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ قال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، فإنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس إلى البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مخموم إلا وكشف الله همه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة، وربي الكعبة. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
You know, during the time of Al-Mutawakkil started to cut the hands of those that visit Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi. That was during the time of Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam. There is not one narration from Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam to say, stop the visitation of Aba Abdullah. That is why even with COVID today, the majalis of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi continue.
ماذا عملوا come and see what they have done.
The victory of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain is that you hear the words Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in the adhan.
Hussein, your fate is in my land.
You know, Ruqayya on the way to Sham, every time someone would push them, she would say, I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you pushed me. I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you hit me.
Daughter, tell me, when we're in Karbala, what will you do?
Imam al-Hussein 1,400 years ago said Black Lives Matter. Said John, who's black, doesn't make a difference to me. He's like my son Ali al-Akbar. He has no arms to fight with. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا ومظلوما.
عما يا حسين، عما يا حسين، يا حسين.
يوم ذكريني من تمر زفت شباب.
The young baby.
Oh my child, oh my child.
during the time of Al-Mutawakkil started to cut the hands of those that visit Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi. That was during the time of Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam. There is not one narration from Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam to say, stop the visitation of Aba Abdullah. That is why even with COVID today, the majalis of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi continue.
ماذا عملوا come and see what they have done.
The victory of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain is that you hear the words Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in the adhan.
Hussein, your fate is in my land.
Ruqayya on the way to Sham, every time someone would push them, she would say, I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you pushed me. I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you hit me.
Daughter, tell me, when we're in Karbala, what will you do?
Imam Al-Hussein 1,400 years ago said Black Lives Matter. Said John, who's black, doesn't make a difference to me. He's like my son Ali Akbar. He has no arms to fight with. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا هو مظلوما.
عما يا حسين عما يا حسين يا حسين.
يوم ذكريني من تمر زفت شباب.
The young baby.
Oh my child, oh my child.
If we could please recite a Surah Al-Fatiha in honor of Al-Hajj Ja'far Qasim, who passed away sadly and was buried today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless his soul. He was a wonderful servant of the community and of Muhammad and Al-Muhammad in London, throughout the UK, and helped many people. And was always someone who supported me from a young age. And I cannot be grateful enough for that support, except by reminding all of us to remember him in our supplications. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give his family patience in this difficult time. Rahim Allah man qara Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا الإمام الحسن عليه السلام، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور المؤيد المهدي من آل محمد. اللهم صل. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، الحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة. What led to the poisoning and the martyrdom of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam? What happened in the 10 years that followed the treaty between Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam and Muawiyah, the son of Abi Sufyan? What was the position of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam in Medinian society in particular, and the Islamic empire in general? Why did this particular poisoning take place? Who was responsible? And what happened at the burial of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam? Indeed, you find, sadly, that many of these questions are glossed over. All of us, when we discuss the biography of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, normally our discussion of the biography goes up to the treaty. The treaty between the Imam and between the people of Sham was a treaty that was concluded at least 9 years before Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam died. Imam al-Hassan was around 38 years old when the treaty was concluded. And he died at the age of 47. When he dies at the age of 47, according to the narrations that we have, we find that those 10 years or those 9 years, one has to ask the question, did Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam seclude himself? Did Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam stop interacting with people? And is that what one would expect of an imam? Let's say, for example, as we mentioned yesterday, politically, you may not be at the helm, but spiritually, you're still a role model. The belief system of the people relies on you. Unfortunately, not only have people not dissected what took place in the 9 or so years or 10 years after the treaty was agreed between Muawiyah and Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, but also at the same time there is this impression of a very, very timid Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, a very soft Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, an Imam who's not brave or bold, and his words are not words of somebody who displays, for example, the same bravery as his father or as Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Hence, many of us, whenever we'll mention the Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim, we'll always say, I'd love to live like Ali and die like Hussein. So what happened to the brother in the middle? What happened to Imam al-Hassan? The reason we do not include Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam in many of our discussions is because of the fact that we have not studied our own literature and therefore dissected the life of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. When a person looks within Shi'i literature, you'll find that Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, when he needed to be humble, he was the most humble. But when he needed to be arrogant, he could be the most arrogant. Arrogance in which sense? Arrogance is a sin on most occasions. Except التكبر على المتكبر, for that is ibadah. Arrogance against the arrogant is worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his titles is Al-Mutakabbir. Therefore, when a person hears that Imam al-Hassan, when he wanted to be, he could be arrogant against the arrogant, it highlights that if Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam wanted to annihilate you in a discussion, it didn't matter who you were. He has the sharpest of tongues. He has the quickest of wit. He is able to be bold in his choice of words. For Al-Muhammad are the family of what? Of balagha and fasaha. They are the family where if you want to see eloquence and you want to see the language which can be used in the most simple way to destroy a person of the opposition, then look no further than the household of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, his family. you wouldn't associate that with Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. You'd never think that Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam would, for example, call somebody a dog, or that Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam would tell somebody that if I were you, I'd check who my real father was. Or you wouldn't expect Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam to look towards someone and call him a mosquito. This, if any of us were to say this to anyone, then they would say that is not the akhlaq of Ahl al-Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim. I agree with you. Generally, the akhlaq of the Quran is id'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah wal maw'idha al hasana. Or we read the lines وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Or we read, for example, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. These verses are saying, invite towards the way of God with wisdom and kind words. The Prophet was a man of sublime morality. If he was hard-hearted or he was severe, then many would have run away from him. But the Quran also, when it wants to say مَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ, it's ready to say it. His example is like the example of a dog. Or if the Quran wants to call someone a bastard, it will. As if the Quran wants to say that someone is born out of adultery, a zanim, for example, then the Quran is ready to highlight. Why? Because if these things aren't highlighted, then you cannot tell the difference between haqq and batil. Everybody, by the time Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam had concluded the treaty, was now uncertain. Are we with Amr ibn al-As and Muawiyah? Or are we with Hassan and Hussein alayhim as-salam? Are we to go towards the path of Walid bin Uqba, the son of Abi Mu'ayyid? Or are we going to go towards the path of the likes of, for example, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya or Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? Because you know, by the time Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam dies, some of the most important figures of the religion of Islam are alive. Despising each other, but alive. Differences with each other, but alive. And therefore, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam cannot just sit back and be humble with everybody. Imam has to make clear that there is a particular barometer and a mizan of haqq and batil. By the time Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam dies on a night like this and is martyred, who are the personalities who are still alive? Muawiyah is alive. Yazid is alive. Amr ibn al-As is alive. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is alive. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya is alive. Imam al-Hussein is alive. And all of these have a major role to play, one way or the other, in the assassination and the burial and the funeral of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Someone might turn around and say, wait, Aisha, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, has a particular role to play in the funeral of Imam al-Hasan, a huge role. But many Muslims do not know, because when Aisha was there at the time of Imam al-Hasan, Aisha died 8 years or so after Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam died, and she died a couple of years before Karbala. Aisha was present when Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam was being buried. Ask many Muslims in the world, do you know what Aisha's stand was when Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam was being buried? They do not know. Marwan ibn al-Hakam was present. Ask many Muslims, do you know what his stand was? They do not know. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was present. What was his stand? Many do not know. Therefore, when we come to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam's life after the treaty, a question has to be asked. If the treaty was signed in the 41st year after Hijrah, and Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam dies in the 50th year after Hijrah, what all of a sudden leads to Muawiyah orchestrating his poisoning? Why doesn't it happen in 42 after Hijrah, 43? 9 years later means something has taken place where Muawiyah thinks that now there is a need to get rid of him. For maybe his tongue has become too sharp for us. And there is a need to finish him. Let us tonight look at the incident that led to the poisoning of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. And I'd like to do this in the following stages. Number one, why is it that Amr ibn al-As told Muawiyah, we need to wake up? After that treaty, he's done a number on us. Number two, when they all began to abuse his father in front of him, how did he remain calm but destroy them with his tongue? A destruction like no other destruction. Number three, how did he highlight to some of them that there are verses in the Quran either about you or about your fathers? No wonder you hate my father, for every verse about him praises him forever. Number four, how then did Muawiyah say that this should be an orchestration now of his poisoning? Number five, when he was to be taken towards the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, who is the lady who objected? And what was the reason she objected. Number 6, when he wanted to head to Baqi', what happened to his holy body? And how many arrows were over his body, simply out of the hate of the Umayyads towards the grandson of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. And finally, when he felt the poison, what did he say to Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam? What did he say to Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam? And how did the ramifications of that event continue to Karbala? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in complete depth. Imam al-Hasan, when you imagine him, you never imagine a man who will come out full of force against the orchestrators of oppression in the Muslim Ummah. Never do we hear about the sharpness of the tongue of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. But one day, this sharpness of tongue virtually destroyed the Umayyads and their henchmen. In which way? Muawiyah, whenever he would come to Medina, would always want Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein to publicly be seen alongside him, to try and show the people of Medina that, look, there's no real issue between us. Here's Hassan, here's Hussein, they're all together with me. It was like a political show. Likewise for Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, that was also a political show as well. Amr ibn al-As had come to Muawiyah one day and said to him that we have a problem in Medina. Muawiyah said to him, what's the issue? He said to him, the problem is that Hassan bin Ali, after we thought we had silenced him with the treaty, has revived the sunnah of his father. Now when he walks in Medina, many walk with him. You could hear the patter of their footsteps and the soles of their feet as they're walking alongside him. When he orders them, they obey him. And when he says something to them, they believe him. Now we cannot let his sickness affect our health, or his batil affect our haqq. We have to pull him in and humiliate him. Let us bring him in, and I will get the rest of our henchmen, and we will abuse him and abuse his father publicly. When we do that, it will be a message to him that don't think you have all of this power and all of this influence. We're all here. And who were they? Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, Amr ibn al-As, you had Walid bin Uqba, you had Amr, the son of Uthman bin Affan, you had Utbah, the son of Abi Sufyan, Yazid bin Muawiyah, Mughira bin Shu'bah, Ibn Ziyad. All of these were present. They were all together. Amr ibn al-As called out Muawiyah. He said to Muawiyah, you have to do something about this now. Allow us to humiliate him. He's going to come to us anyway when we call him. Let's abuse him and abuse his father so we calm him down. Because what were they fearing? If I haven't signed this treaty with you, all your concentration now is on the expansion of the Islamic empire. You've forgotten the capital of the empire. Imam al-Hasan knew that if I let him focus on what he thinks is his victory and he leaves me alone, the most dangerous thing to do is to let an imam have freedom alone with the community. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he had a little bit of freedom, look how many hadiths emerged. So Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Amr ibn al-As said that we've given him too much freedom now. Let's call him in. Muawiyah said, and when you call him in, what do you want to do? He said, we'll attack him with our words and we'll humiliate him. Muawiyah said, but I fear there's a problem. This is a family. You cannot get humiliated. When you try to attack this family, there's no way that you're going to be able to humiliate them. Utbah, the son of Abu Sufyan, agreed with Muawiyah. He said, look, listen, you're right. Amr ibn al-As said, no, we must. We cannot let the man continue and allow his batil to overtake our haqq. What you see clearly emerging is that 40 or so years after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi died, the concept of what is Islam clearly had two opposite parties. One party who believed abusing Abu Turab was a norm. Abusing Imam Ali alayhi salam was a norm. That it was normal for them to chill in a gathering in public and say, we're going to abuse his father. There are many in the Sunni world today who love Ali ibn Abi Talib. They adore him. If they were living at the time of Muawiyah, then they would have brought up in a sectarian social milieu where you had to curse Ali. And therefore, at that time, you either had the Islam of Al-Muhammad, salawatullah wa salam alayhim, or you had the clear Umayyad Islam that had emerged. Amr ibn al-As therefore won what he wanted. Amr ibn al-As said that go and call Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hasan, the lady in his house, came to him. She said to him that these people have all called you. He said, who? He said, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, his son Yazid, Amr ibn al-As, Walid bin Uqba, Amr the son of Uthman bin Affan, as well as the others who were there, such as Utbah bin Abi Sufyan. All of them have gathered together. Imam al-Hasan straight away read a dua. What was the dua? He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ensure that the punishment afflicts these people. Which means that straight away, he makes it clear that to him, these are disbelievers. Why would Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam pray for Allah to punish this group and for Allah to give him strength in where he is going so that he is ready? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam highlights to us, whenever you're going to face this type of discussion with people who have that type of nature, read a dua before you go. Don't think I'm going to go in powerful. Even at that moment, you have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the strength as you approach this gathering. This is a public gathering of people who hate him and hate his father and hate Al-Muhammad, have a severe animosity. And everyone's going to see what's going to happen. So Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam reads this dua. He comes towards the gathering. Amr ibn al-As is there. Muawiyah is there. Everybody's there. Imam al-Hasan is there standing in front of them. Amr ibn al-As, what does he do? He straight away curses Imam al-Hasan and curses his father. Yes. He curses them, and then he says to him at that moment, he says to him that, know one thing, your father poisoned the first Khalifa. And your father was part of the killing of the second Khalifa. And that your father was one of those who participated in the killing of the third Khalifa. And you are a fool like your father is a fool. Both of you are fools. You have been exposed as a fool with your character. Imagine you say this to the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, who Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi say very clearly, whoever loves them, loves me. And whoever hates them, hates me. They are the masters, Hassan and Hussein are the masters of the youth paradise. This man not only is cursing Imam Ali alayhi salam. I ask you, someone who curses Imam Ali alayhi salam, can you still call him a Muslim? But not, this is where in the ihtijaj of Tabarsi, this narration is clear. He curses Imam Ali alayhi salam, curses Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, calls Imam al-Hasan a fool. Says to him, Ahmaq, you are a fool like your father was, and you will never achieve this Amir al-Mu'mineen title. When he says this to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, some people have this impression that Imam al-Hasan would have just turned around and said, we shouldn't talk like this, we are all Muslim brothers and sisters and we should maintain the peace with one another. No. When I have a mutakabbir talking like Amr ibn al-As, then التكبر على المتكبر عبادة. Arrogance against the arrogant is worship. Because if I act humbly with an arrogant person like that, then that person will be like the peacock who will ensure that its feathers flow everywhere. They will never be humbled. At that moment, you have to humble them. How did Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam deal with him? Because Imam al-Hasan saw Amr ibn al-As say this, he looked towards him. He said, what? Ya shani', ya la'een, ya abtar. Look at the three terms. Why ya shani', ya la'een, and ya abtar? Firstly, he shows us that la'na is something that can be done. Those who say that we shouldn't do la'na, Imam says ya la'een. Clearly, the Imam is doing la'na on him. Ya shani' and ya abtar. If I was to ask you, shani' and abtar, which surah of the Holy Quran do you have an ayah which brings these two words together? Inna shani'aka huwal abtar. In Surah Al-Kawthar. Inna shani'aka huwal abtar means what? That your most severe enemy is the one whose line is cut. Okay, all of us know Surah Al-Kawthar. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam said to him, Ya shani', ya la'een, ya abtar. Do you know how many different men claimed they were your father? Let me give you their names. Because what you have is that your mother used to have a job as a call girl. She would be available for every man in Arabia. Because he wouldn't call him son of As. He calls him, son of Nabigha, like his dad called him. His father, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, doesn't call him son of As. He says, son of Nabigha. It's better that you get attached to your mom because there's no chance in hell that you know who your dad is. He said, let me give you the possibilities in the national lottery of who your dad could be. He said, as for your father, it could be Abu Sufyan. He claimed to be your father. And at the same time, Walid ibn al-Mughira also claimed to be your father. And you had others, such as An-Nadhr, also claimed to be your father. And you had Al-As bin Wa'il claimed to be your father. And others, their names are mentioned, 6 of them. And how do you find out who the father is? You put 6 names in a bowl. This is the way we find out our fathers, of course, in modern day society. That you get 6 names in a bowl, you put your hand in there, and you take it out, and it said Al-As bin Wa'il. So you were called Amr ibn As. To me, no. To me, you are the Shani and you are the Abtar and you are a La'een. May Allah withdraw His mercy from you. Your mother used to go to the tribe of Abd Qais, telling their men, please come to me. Please come to me. She wanted all of them to have a go at her. That was the position of your mother. Therefore, when you come and insult me and my father, it's better for you to focus on your lineage and your mother and the profession that your mother had. Therefore, in this one whole area, he's given us a tafsir of an ayah of the Quran. That Al-As bin Wa'il, who used to make fun of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by saying, Anta al-Abtar, you are Abtar. No, Al-As, Allah said, Inna shani'aka huwa al-Abtar. That means you can't be Al-As's son, because Allah is saying your enemy is the one who's Abtar. So them who call you Amr ibn al-As, no. Could be Abu Sufyan that night. We have to give him benefit of the doubt. He could have been the one. Could be Walid ibn al-Mughira. He had a good go. It could be, for example, another. He had his chance. Suffice for me to say that everyone was well acquainted with Amr ibn al-As's mother. When Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam says that Amr ibn al-As is silenced, at that moment, Amr, the son of Uthman bin Affan, began to curse Imam Ali alayhi salam. You know, for Al Muhammad, it used to hurt them when people used to curse Imam Ali alayhi salam. Always in the Na'i or in the Masa'ib, we always hear Zainab alayhi salam broken when they would curse her father. And Imam al-Hasan was broken, but Imam al-Hasan maintained himself. So Amr, the son of Uthman bin Affan, said to him that may God curse you and curse your father. He looked at him. He said, why would I care about the opinions of someone like you? You remind me of the mosquito that is on a palm tree, that said to the palm tree, oh palm tree, I'm about to fly away. And the palm tree looked at it and said, I didn't even know you were on me. Why should I care that you're now flying away? Who cares about you? You could say whatever you want, but I really don't care about your opinion. That is what you are worth in my eyes. That person was shut up there and then. Next was someone Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam had been waiting for a very long time. Walid, the son of Uqba. Walid bin Uqba had been a hater of Amir al-Mu'mineen and of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. And this Walid bin Uqba was one of the main people pushing Muawiyah to fight at Siffin, where he said to him, I will never believe you are the son of your father unless you fight Ali in the battle of Siffin. Walid bin Uqba sitting there, seeing that Amr, the son of Uthman, has just been described as a mosquito, which is blatantly an insult, and seeing how Amr ibn al-As, his mother, has been known as everybody's best friend. Now he is wondering what's going to happen to me. And so at that moment, what took place? Walid bin Uqba, when he cursed, Imam al-Hasan said, I don't blame you. I can see why you curse my father. Firstly, my father taught your father a great lesson on the day of Badr and finished him completely. Secondly, every ayah on fisq and the fasiq is revealed about you. And the ayahs on iman and the mu'min are about my father. Look how clear. You know the famous ayah in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in, فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Oh, you who believe, when a fasiq, can't be more clear than that. A fasiq, a Quranic ayah says when a fasiq comes to you with news, verify the news. Otherwise, what will happen? You will label a whole group of people with ignorance and then you regret what you've done. We cannot say, we've all been there at one stage or another in our life. Someone comes, tells us a piece of news, we believe it, and then later it turns out to be a load of nonsense. So there was a qa'idah in the Quran, because of this Walid bin Uqba. Now I'm sure some of you are thinking, hold on. So there's a verse in the Quran, Allah reveals, and there's only 6,500 verses in the Quran, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a verse calling someone a fasiq, and somehow this guy becomes part of the Islamic authority. This was Uthman bin Affan's governor of Kufa, this Walid. I beg you, if a holy book, the Lord of the book, calls someone fasiq. Now imagine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even some of the munafiqun, He doesn't tell us who they are. He hides them from us, covers their faults. But fasiq, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa clearly labeled Walid bin Uqba. Because this Walid bin Uqba went to Bani Mustalaq, the two of them used to hate each other. When Bani Mustalaq converted, Walid bin Uqba converted. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa said to Walid bin Uqba, go to Bani Mustalaq, collect the taxes from them. This Walid, because he hasn't converted with conviction, still had hate against Bani Mustalaq. Whereas Bani Mustalaq converted with conviction, so they had a new open forgiveness for Walid from the past animosity that they had. When Walid was approaching their area, Bani Mustalaq was coming out to welcome him. What did he think because of his evil heart? He thought they've come out to have a punch-up with me. He returned back to Medina. Bani Mustalaq have become people who have apostated again. At that moment, what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was wondering, why would they apostate? They have just converted to Islam. It turned out that this person has accused them of jahl. In ja'akum fasiqun binaba, he brings you news. فَتَبَيَّنُوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فاعلين. What? You end up regretting what you have done. So at that moment, the Quran had revealed that this guy's a fasiq. When you see how many times the difference between the one who is a fasiq and the one who's a mu'min. As we see in Dua Kumail, how many times do we recite this line? And you see it throughout the scriptures. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. True? أَفَمَنْ كَانَ كَمَنْ كَانَ. Mu'min is who? Imam Ali alayhi salam. Fasiq is who? Walid bin Uqba. This Walid bin Uqba, how did he get so powerful? Because someone's saying, bro, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has revealed an ayah about me being a fasiq, how do I end up as a governor of the Islamic State? He was related to Uthman bin Affan. He was a governor. Imam al-Hasan says to him, you still remember my father's 80 lashes on you when you were drunk? He was leading Salat al-Fajr. He reached Ruk'ah number 4. How many Ruk'ahs are there in Fajr? I can show you people in the world who want to finish the second one quickly and jump into bed. Nobody gets to 3 at Fajr. You've got to be out of your head to reach number 4 at Fajr. Yani mix Jack Daniels and Bacardi and all this Guinness, put them all together, you might reach 3. But to reach number 4, and then not just number 4, turn around in tashahhud and say, do you guys want me to continue? Uthman was not ready to punish him. Relations. You know, Muslims, when it comes to nepotism, are the kings. Uthman was not ready to punish him. So who punished him? Imam Ali alayhi salam. So Imam al-Hasan said, the ayahs on mu'mineen are about my father. And the ayahs about the fasiqeen are about your father. About you. And that, do you remember the lashes my father gave you? The 80 lashes. No wonder you don't like my father. Not only did he destroy your father at Badr, but he also was the one who reprimanded you when no one had the bravery to, for being a governor who was drunk of the Islamic Empire. And also, I have news for you. What's your name? Walid bin Uqba. That's not your dad. So what do you mean? He said, your father's Dhakwan. But to save face, you're called Walid, son of Uqba. Your mom had slept with Dhakwan. And therefore, you were a person who was born from that particular father. And I've got more news for you. If you go and find out, you'll find out that you're actually older than the person who they say you're the son of. So Uqba definitely is not your dad. Is that all? That's all. You got anything else to say? No. Okay, moving on swiftly. As for you, who did he come to next? Utbah, the son of Abu Sufyan. Why should I care about someone like you? your family are all going to burn in hell forever. You want to abuse my father? Your family, O Utbah, son of Abu Sufyan, all of you will burn in hell forever. And you shouldn't focus on me and my father that much. You should focus more on the man you caught in your wife's bed last week and done nothing to. Okay, so now he came and finished all of them. Then who? Then Yazid bin Muawiyah. Yazid bin Muawiyah had said to Imam al-Hasan on one occasion, I don't know why I don't like you. I just look at your face and I don't like you. Which is not unusual, that a son of zina will not like the son of purity. It's something very normal. But Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam said to him, I've got the answer for you, Yazid. I'll tell you why you don't like me. Yazid, if you read the Quran, Surah 17, verse 64, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that shaitan shares with you your wealth and your children. Yes? He said to him, Yazid, how does shaitan share with us wealth? When we do haram business, isn't it? Shaitan shares wealth with us. Yazid, how is it that shaitan shares children with us? Because you can understand that shaitan tempts us when he shares our businesses when we do haram. In terms of children, if you look at your origin, you'll find that you were consummated with shaitan being part of that consummation that night. You'll go and see Hind's origin, and you'll see that shaitan had a pleasant time that night with them. So you find, therefore, one by one, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam did not hold back with that image that Imam al-Hasan would never be brave like Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussain saying, إِنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجُ أَشْرًا وَلَا بَطْرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا هَيْهَاتْ مِنَّ الذِّلَّ مِثْلِي لَا يُضَعْ. No. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, when he wanted to, he could destroy you. Someone might say, but how could Imam al-Hasan say these things? Imam could say what he wants. It's not for me to justify. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam knows at this moment, allowing these to stay at the helm. Amr ibn al-As, Walid bin Uqba, Amr ibn Uthman, Utbah the son of Abu Sufyan, the likes of these, you cannot just sit back and say they are Muslim and I'm a Muslim. You have to make it clear that there is a difference between those of pure origin and those are. And that's why Muawiyah knew when he told Amr al-As, don't mess with Imam al-Hasan when it comes to these things, because you guys are all going to be humiliated. You just found out that your mother was a call girl. You just found out that that's not even your real dad. You just found out that your worth in his eyes a mosquito and nothing more. When you find these things out, you don't have any face to show anymore. But one thing we need to do now is that we need to get rid of him, because now he's had too much power in Medina. And when he's had all of this power in Medina, it's fundamental that we finish him off. How do we finish him off? We finish him off by making sure that we can get to those who are close to him. Because after the treaty was signed, there's an agreement. There's not going to be any more fighting, for example, that takes place. You're not going to fight the Shia of Ali and our followers. So how do we get to him? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, of his wives, you had, for example, Ishaq, the daughter of Talha. Of his wives, you had Ramla, the mother of Qasim and others. Of his wives, you had Ja'da, the daughter of Al-Ash'ath bin Qais. Muawiyah, and this is narrated, by the way, not just in our school in Islam. But the problem is many people who are not Shia only love and respect Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam because of his relation to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is no conception of him being a man of ilm and hikmah and studying his sermons and his supplications. Simply, he's the Hafid, the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's the only reason to respect him. You look at Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Muawiyah had orchestrated that we get some poison which is sand. When the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, all his life is saying, whoever loves him, loves me. Whoever hates him, hates me. Whoever angers him, angers me. Whoever hurts the Prophet, hurts his Ahlul Bayt, لعنهم الله في الدنيا والآخرة. You found that he made sure that he told Ja'da, the daughter of Al-Ash'ath bin Qais. What did he say? He said very clearly to her that if you poison Hassan, then who will I give you? Yazid, my son. She went ahead and she gave the poison to the Imam. When she gave the poison to the Imam, the narrations mentioned to us that the Imam died shortly after the poison was given to him. It absolutely was one of the strongest poisons ever given to any of the Imams of Al-Muhammad salawatullah wa salamu alayhim. The Imam was therefore killed. Muawiyah had orchestrated this. You'd think that now that the Imam has died in Medina, you'd think that that would be it. There would be no issue. They'd go and bury him. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, in his will, just before he had died, he said to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he said that I want you to bury me where? Next to, in the Jannat al-Baqi'. One may argue possibly that could be next to his mother Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Who knows? But I want to be buried next to who? My grandmother Fatima bint Asad. He loved his grandmother Fatima bint Asad because when they were young, she was in their house. So he loved his grandma. He said, bury me Jannat al-Baqi' next to my grandmother Fatima bint Asad. When he said that to him, he also said to him that try and remain patient with what you're about to see after I pass away. I want you to remain patient. Let's not have any problems between the Muslims as to what you're going to see. And if you can, please allow me that when the mayyit or the janazah is being taken, I want you to go past the grave of my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, so that I renew my covenant with my grandfather. It's just something of a barakah, that when you're carrying the coffin, for example, you go towards where? The grave of my grandfather. Just go past for a bit and then continue to where? Continue to Jannat al-Baqi'. Narrations mention that of the people who stood up against Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam being buried near his grandfather, who were they? The first of them was who? Was Aisha, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. Aisha, she was the first to stand up. And this is narrated within Shi'i and non-Shi'i literature. Why would you stand up against a janazah that all it wants to do is come a little bit near the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih and move on? For what reason? Isn't this the master of the youth of paradise? Don't you claim that after the battle of Jamal, you sought repentance for fighting Imam Ali alayhi salam? If you truly sought repentance for fighting Imam Ali at Jamal, because you always hear this, that Aisha, when she fought Imam Ali, she was wrong, but she asked for forgiveness, and Imam Ali alayhi salam forgave. You always hear this line. Okay, but one of the signs of forgiveness is A, regret, B, never doing the same thing again. Standing up against someone. If now someone says to you, I want to do tawbah, I want to do istighfar, part of istighfar is what? Is that I've regretted what I've done. But another part is I don't go back to the same place or do the same thing again. Otherwise that istighfar is not complete. Aisha stands up. On what? She rode a mule on that day. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya came out. He said, one day on a camel, another day on a mule. Blatantly he said it. And she said to him, what do you have to do with the matter of the sons of Fatima? And Imam al-Hussein intervenes by saying he has 3 Fatimas in his lineage. He can have anything to do with the sons of Fatima. She came out riding a mule, a saddled mule. The janazah of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, all they wanted to do was go near the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She said, no, it's not happening. If you oppose this issue, what does it say about your belief system? I ask you, because when a person says to me that you Shia, you do not like, for example, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My brother, me, I don't wake up one morning and randomly say, who shall I not like today? Let me see, give me a bowl so I can pick out a name I don't like. I see someone who fights Imam Ali alayhi salam. I see another one who stops the janazah and the mayyit party who are going towards Baqi'. This is not just in my literature. And mind you, I don't care if it's in other people's literature. And it's only in mine. Because mine is more important than anybody else's. So what happens was that she came out on a mule on saddle. And she was on that mule. Before that, only 14 years earlier, she was on a camel. The camel, there was a carriage. This one, direct saddle, no carriage. She came out. Muhammad ibn Hanafi says one day she's riding a mule. Another day she had ridden a camel. Why did she not allow? This is my property. The area around the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is what? You leave behind inheritance. You have a widow. So when Islam says if you leave a widow behind, how much goes to the widow? 1/8 of your property. Do you agree? So she says that this is my property and therefore I don't allow. The problem, I remember Mu'min al-Taq telling Abu Hanifa, when Abu Hanifa said 1/8 goes to the wife, and Mu'min al-Taq said, okay, I agree, but there's 9 wives. 1/8 times 1 9. Times 9 is what? 1 out of 72. So in reality, only a small portion should go to Aisha. Because when people ask me, how comes Abu Bakr and Umar are buried next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr, a part of their inheritance they used for their fathers to be buried. But when you're 2 out of 9, how did you get that much? Anyway, so what you have therefore with Aisha, she said that this will not happen. Imam al-Hasan had told Imam al-Hussein, look at the dhulm on Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Wallah, يعني truly when I hear them call out those lines, madloom, madloom, al-Hasan madloom, honestly, I sometimes think of those lines and I say truly oppressed. The man not only is poisoned on Umayyad orders from the children of Hind and Abu Sufyan, but all he wants is that his body is taken towards the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she comes out. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam makes it clear that, you know what, if it wasn't for the will of my brother, you would not get in my way. It makes no difference to me. In reality, you make no difference to us. We would continue and press ahead. But my brother requested that, Ya Aba Abdullah, don't let there be trouble and bloodshed because of my funeral. Then on the way towards, who was the second who objected? Marwan ibn al-Hakam. And this is what rubbish came to Islam, unfortunately, after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa died. Marwan was banished. He wasn't even allowed back. The Prophet had banished him, for this was a troublemaker. He ordered for arrows to be shot all over the body of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imagine, I ask you a question. Which members of Al Muhammad had a burial which you would be proud of? Honestly, I ask each and every one of you. Which members of Al Muhammad? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. You'd find that there are people coming in to bury him, and there's others who are going to do elections. Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, I don't need to describe to you. You are all Shi'at Fatima. You're the lovers of Fatima. Secretly in the middle of the night. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, secretly in the middle of the night. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, arrows all over his janazah. And you know who was hurt the most when he saw arrows showering his janazah? Who do you think out of the family of Ahlul Bayt cannot bear to see the Imam's hurt? Abu al-Fadl. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas on that time was about, how old? He was about 23 years of age. And he stood up and he said, how dare you attack my brother's body in that way? And where have we heard those lines before? Yes. Inni uhami abadan an dini wa an imamin. He did not say this only in Karbala. He had said this in Medina. Uhami abadan an dini wa an imamin. Sadiq al-Yaqini, Najl al-Nabi. It's all Imam al-Hasan. It happens in Medina and in Karbala. Abu al-Fadl stands up. He wants to go for the defense. And only Imam al-Hussein could stop him. Because his obedience to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is the highest obedience. I don't think we will ever be able to explain Abbas's obedience to Hussein. And we only know of the obedience of the 10th of Muharram, and that is the greatest obedience. But at Medina on a night like this, take your heart to Jannat al-Baqi', all of you. I haven't been to Baqi' for a number of years now, and I miss it so much. May Allah bless all of us that we can go to Baqi' on a night like this, to be next to Hassan and Zayn al-Abidin, Muhammad al-Baqir, Ja'far al-Sadiq, and al-Baneen. May Allah bless all of us that were able to go. It was only Abu Abdullah who's able to tell Abu al-Fadl, wait. And didn't we see that at Karbala? How many times did Abu al-Fadl say, let me go? And Imam al-Hussein says, no, he says, okay, that's it. I won't go. You will never, ever see obedience like Abbas to Hussein. It's the most unique obedience. But at the same time, in Medina, it was extremely difficult for Abu al-Fadl, and even more difficult for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. People do not realize how much pain Imam al-Hussein was in when he saw his brother Imam al-Hassan in that much pain. I've seen poets describe this in the most amazing ways. Sometimes you hear poets where they describe Imam al-Hussein calling out, I wish they took my body rather than yours. Let them take my liver instead of yours. let me go through the trial instead of you going through the trial. And why does he bring up trial? As one poet makes it clear, it's as if Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam says to his brother, we were together when our father died. We were there when our mother's rib was broken. We were there when our grandfather died. Is this the time for a brother to leave his beloved brother? Is this the time for a brother to leave his beloved brother? And if you read the narrations of the last moments of the life of Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam, then you find within those narrations there's a sudden moment where Imam Al-Hussein looks towards his brother and he says to him, what's the anguish about? What's the pain? Tell me. And he said to him, the poison is finishing me now. Imagine you look towards your brother and you have love for your brother, and your brother tells you these are the last moments, and you could tell the pain in Imam Al-Hussein. You could tell the pain in Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. You know he is in excruciating pain because he could not bear to see what's happened to his brother. And there are these lines that say that Imam Al-Hussein said, who did it? Is it her? Let me go. And he said, Aba Abdullah, you have to wait. You have to remain patient. But get me a stick, please, if you can. And get a bowl for me. Why a stick? Why a bowl? Because the poison was so strong that pieces of meat were coming out now. And he was vomiting those pieces of that liver. Just small pieces from the inside were coming out. Sometimes you need a stick to bring them out. He saw the bowl in front of him, and it broke his heart. And I'm sure it broke the heart of his mother Fatima as well, seeing her son poisoned in that way. When they were both together, therefore, at that moment, he could see that Imam Al-Hussein had broken down. And he had seen that he was now slowly vomiting more blood coming out into the bowl. All of a sudden, they heard the movement of the door. When they heard the movement of the door, Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam began to cover the bowl. Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam called out, brother, why do you cover the bowl? Imam Al-Hasan said to him, who is at the door? He said to him, Zainab alayhi salam. Zainab, knowing the pain that Imam Al-Hasan was going through, she walked in towards the room. Imam Al-Hasan had covered the bowl. When Aba Abdullah asked him, my brother, why do you cover the bowl? He said to him, oh Hussein, I don't want Zainab to have her heart broken looking at what's inside the bowl. I ask him, oh Imam, oh Hassan al-Mujtaba, if you thought that that would break the heart of Zainab, I ask you, when she saw a shimmer on the chest of Hussein, I ask you, when she saw the bowl of Aba Abdullah's head in front of her, what did Zainab go through? Imagine for Zainab alayhi salam on a night like this, the difficulty that she's going through. Madloom, Madloom, Al-Hasan, Madloom, Masmoom, Masmoom, Al-Hasan, Masmoom. And that moment Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam was crying. Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam looked towards him. He said to him, the poison is killing me, but La yawm, La yawm, La yawmun ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. Every single one of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, although they knew the pain that they felt, they also knew the tenderness of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. One of the poets, he describes the scene wonderfully. He says that one day in the dream he saw Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Hassan talking to each other. He said, I saw them talking to each other and I saw them both crying and crying. He said, I remembered some of the words that they were saying to each other. What were they? He said, I saw Imam al-Hassan talking to Imam al-Hussein, and he said to him, is it fair, my brother, is it fair that they poison me but that they beheaded you? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that they poisoned me but that they beheaded you? Then he said, I saw Imam al-Hussein look towards Imam al-Hassan and say, is it fair, my brother Hassan, is it fair that I have many Zuwar coming to visit me but there's none coming to visit you? Jannat al-Baqi' is empty tonight, my dear brothers and sisters. Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have many Zuwar coming to visit me but there's none to visit you? Is it fair, my brother, that I have a dharih on top of my grave and you have none on top of you? Because they destroyed his dharih, they bombed that dharih, they demolished Jannat al-Baqi'. Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have a dharih on top of me and you have none on top of you? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have a dome on top of me and you have a stone on top of you? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that when my Zuwar come to visit me, they welcome them when they visit me but they push them away when they visit you? Allahu Akbar. The Imams are aware of what we go through. Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have an alam on top of my dome and you have nothing on the top of you? But look at the soft-heartedness. Look what Imam al-Hassan replies. My brother Hussein, my brother Hussein, one day there'll be a time when people will come to visit me and Zayn al-Abidin, Muhammad al-Baqir, Ja'far al-Sadiq and al-Banin, and all they'll be looking for is one thing. What thing is it? They'll be looking for the vibrations of a broken ribbon in Medina, because for both of them that ribbon Medina was what united the two of them. For both of them it was extremely difficult. But imagine for Zainab on a night like this, but imagine Zainab in Sham on a night like this. No Hassan and no Hussein, no Abbas to come towards her and look after her on a night like this. Then what did she have? The whips of Shimr bin al-Jawshan attacking her in the courts of Sham. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Let's raise our hands, my dear brothers and sisters. Let's raise our hands with the tear that comes down. O son of Shabib, that tear that flows from your eye towards your cheek, Allah forgives the sins, big, small, few or numerous. Many of us have numerous sins, big sins, Ya Allah, with the tear that comes down from our eye. Remember that sin that you may have committed that you've always felt some guilt about. Have that tear come down. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بحق الحسن وبحق الحسين وبحق الفضل. In the name of all of these, Ya Allah, forgive us of all of our sins. Ya Allah, allow us to visit Jannat al-Baqi', restore it to His glory. Ya Allah, the originators of this majlis, allow them to continue in their service of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our brothers and sisters who are feeling unwell. We have a couple of our dear friends who have COVID now. There are others around the world. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. All of us. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah Al-Fatiha in honor of all of our marhumeen. But before it, we welcome the Mulla with the loudest of your salawat.
You know, during the time of Al-Mutawakkil started to cut the hands of those that visit Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi. That was during the time of Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam. There is not one narration from Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam to say, stop the visitation of Aba Abdullah. That is why even with COVID today, the majalis of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi continue.
ماذا عملوا come and see what they have done.
The victory of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain is that you hear the words Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in the adhan.
Hussein, your fate is in my land.
You know, Ruqayya on the way to Sham, every time someone would push them, he would say, I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you pushed me. I'm going to tell my father Hussein that you hit me.
Daughter, tell me, when we're in Karbala, what will you do?
Imam al-Hussein 1,400 years ago said Black Lives Matter. Said John, who's black, doesn't make a difference to me. He's like my son Ali Akbar. He has no arms to fight with. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا هو مظلوما.
عما يا حسين عما يا حسين يا حسين.
يوم ذكريني من تمر زفت شباب.
The young baby.
Oh my child, oh my child.
عباس لاين كبف حيدر عباس لاين كبف حيدر صنوب زهرة سنكتيتي. When you see Hassan's coffin to hold back your sword like Ali. Oh my lion, Kabo Abbas, I'm Haidar Ali, your father.
You who tore men into two halves, today weep for your half-brother. Oh my lion cub, oh Abbas, I'm Haydar Ali, your father. You who tore men into two halves, today weep for your half-brother. Arrows pierce his lonely coffin, a patient yet blood-stained fair. Take your hand away from that sword, just like I did for his mother. Take your hand away from that sword, just like I did for his mother. Oh my lion cub, oh Abbas, I'm Haydar Ali, your father. You who tore men into two halves, today weep for your half-brother. Arrows pierce his lonely coffin, a patient yet blood-stained feather. Take your hand away from that sword, just like I did for his mother. Embrace your chains, oh my lion, and embrace them patiently. When you see those arrows fired, hold back your sword like Ali. Embrace your chains, oh my lion, and embrace them patiently. When you see those arrows fired, hold back your sword, oh Ali. Hold back your sword, oh Ali. Bearer of veins that explode when danger comes toward your pride. Let your eyes from sorrow explode, and beneath that your anger hide. Embrace, bearer of the veins that explode when danger comes toward your pride. Let your eyes from sorrow explode, and beneath that your anger. Do not react to their arrows. Do not react to their arrows, and keep my Zainab by your side. When you carry Hassan's coffin, my beloved, carry it with pride. They will fire arrows at it. Abbas, protect your family. The time for vengeance will come soon. Hold back your sword like Ali. Hold back your sword like Ali. Oh, defender of my daughter, be there to soothe my Zainab's cries. When lodged in his coffin, my son, shattered by arrows alone lie. Oh, defender of my daughter, be there to soothe my Zainab's cry. When lodged in his coffin, my son, shattered by arrows alone lies. Let your patience fly like your flag, above all other flags it flies. I know when you can't draw your sword, like your half-brother, your soul dies. Say goodbye to your half-brother. Let those piercing arrows stay. When you can't remove them from him, hold your sword back like Ali. When you can't remove them from him, hold your sword back like Ali. The slap on Hassan's mother's cheek is the same cheek Hassan would kiss. The broken rib of his mother, guards the heart that Hassan would miss. The slap on Hassan's mother's cheek is the same cheek Hassan would kiss. The broken rib of his mother guards the heart that Hassan would miss. When you stay patient, oh Abbas, you remember and reminisce. I had to keep my own sword sheath, witnessing so much worse than this. They set fire to my wife's door. From the smoke, her lungs heavy. When you see her daughter Zainab, hold your sword back like Ali. When you see her daughter Zainab, hold your sword back like Ali. Bid farewell to your half-brother, hold your sword for it won't end here. Bid farewell to your half-brother, hold your sword for it won't end here. When you reach the land Karbala, draw your sword and into death peer. Become the sparrow you wanted. Pick your prey and souls from them tear. Do not stop till your hands are cut and your head is placed on a spit. Become the sparrow you wanted. Pick your prey and souls from them tear. Do not stop till your hands are cut and your head is placed on a spit. When Zainab sees you're held there, a burnt out moon torn away. When Zainab sees your head held there, a burnt out moon torn away. She'll recall today when you would hold your sword back like Ali. She'll recall today when you would hold your sword back like Ali. Oh my lion, Kaaba Abbas, I'm Haidar Ali, Father. You tore men into halves, today weep for your half-brother. Oh my lion, Kaaba Abbas, I'm Haidar Ali, Father. You who tore men into two halves, today weep for your half-brother. Arrows pierce his lonely coffin, a patient yet blood-stained feather. Take your hand away from that sword, just like I did for his mother. Embrace your chains, oh my lion, and embrace them patiently. When you see those arrows fired, hold back your sword like Ali. When you see those arrows fired, hold back your sword like Ali. Hold back your sword like Ali. Assalamu alayka يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبي الفضل العباس واخته زينب جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته، وإلى أرواح أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.